Well, welcome today. I am so grateful to have Dr. Matthew Sullivan with us here to share his insights over many decades of work in the family law arena. Welcome. We're really glad to have you with us.
Thank you, Krista.
Let's start with just giving us some background. You've done so many things as I look through your well-esteemed CV, and I'm just blown away with how much work you've done in the field regarding research and writing. I know you were past president, or you are past president of the association, what is it? The Association of Family and Conciliation Courts. Won a big award for them. Have that Meyer Elkin award and those sorts of things. And I know you've also authored a couple books regarding overcoming the co-parenting trap and overcoming the alienation crisis. What I really love about that is that we're all about trying to come up with solutions. And so I love that your subhead is 33 co-parenting solutions, which is great. So tell us a little about your background. How did you get to where you are and get into the field? And let's just go from there.
Yeah, I'm a clinical psychologist. That's my training. And I got into the forensic, I guess, area through juvenile dependency. So I did evaluations way back when of parental competency and termination of parental rights and, pretty heavy duty stuff. But in retrospect, much more cut and dry, much more. Criminal stuff is awful, but, these issues in family court that we'll talk about, I'm sure, are so much more nuanced. They're so much more challenging for that perspective. So then one of the judges in, Santa Clara County in California was, where I have practice in the public courts. One of the judges moved to family court and obviously liked my work. So the rest is sort of history in terms of child custody evaluations, which I did for probably until 2004. I know exactly when I stopped doing child custody evaluations. Just they were not my cup of tea. It was one of those things that you're good at, but it doesn't feed you.
Right.
And I also thought there was a lot of error in that kind of cross-sectional analysis of a family's functioning.
We're talking about Kayden's law, and I've already done a couple shows on that, like the new domestic violence laws in Colorado. Colorado is one of the first states to adopt these, and it's got a lot of unintended consequences. We're all trying to noodle and figure out how to make this all work. But Judge Cohen, I keep saying doctor, Judge Cohen said, can we all agree that we want children to be safe? Can we all agree that parents have fundamental rights to parent? Can we all agree that this is a court of evidence and a court of law with due process? I mean, why do you think this has become so adversarial where somebody like you is considered a threat? And explain why. Like, I guess from like a more naive view, it's like, okay, why is it so polarized? Help me understand just from a very like low level, what is going on here from your view?
Well, it is complex. I'll say that one thing that does not help, which is not unique to this particular very complex, challenging issue, is what the internet has done to information, to, as Judge Owen was saying, evidence, which is fact-based versus misinformation versus, you know, uh, disinformation. Misinformation is different than disinformation. Actually has a intent to to support an advocacy position, to scholar advocacy in our scholarship circles. What Mike Saini, when you talk to him, ask him about that. There is not there is not a a pursuit of knowledge about concepts and theory and applications that I used to think about was kind of what happened when I was in graduate school learning these things. It is that's been kind of corrupted by echo chambers in the internet, and groups that you know to borrow from a different whole area, radicalize
Mhm.
vulnerable people, vulnerable parents who may on the one hand have indeed been victimized, by the system, because that absolutely happens. And those people are easily radicalized, or people who are just disturbed. And and that is proliferating, and what parents, get as they search, for a keyword like domestic violence or parental alienation or whatever it may be really good social science research, or maybe some crazy person's podcast who engaged in ridiculously delusional parental alienating behaviors, and the courts hammered them, and now their case for them, since they don't see their kids anymore, has become a cause, and they will speak and resonate with other
Mhm.
people.
We talked about voice of the child, tendencies and trends, and the way that that went. Now we're seeing, and don't let me leap over any if I'm
Let
missing any. Go
me
ahead.
just mention one other, which is
Okay.
the advocacy for domestic
And
violence.
that's what I was just gonna say is let's
And
go there now.
I
So,
moved
like, let's talk
I moved
about
in the
where
80s
yeah.
in the 80s, which is absolutely a laudable and critical and, important protective, movement for women and children victimized by domestic violence, has emerged and plays into this area of resistance and refusal, because, um, the domestic violence, the more, uh, uh, extreme, I'll call it, domestic violence advocates, who have mobilized very effectively, as protective parents, see the assertion that a child's rejection, may be, not due to their actual experience of a parent, as a malicious a malicious assertion to further, um, engage in coercion and domestic violence against them as a parent and the children. And that has played out in this whole complex situation, in that someone like me who has tried to work on this issue, is seen as a threat to women who are
Yeah.
victimized.
I'm always trying to get parents to get off of the parenting time
Right.
dynamic and get onto the relational dynamic
Right.
of
Oh, and
saying, "Look, these kids are gonna suffer their whole lives if they don't work out in some way." And kids usually resonate with that. I say to them, it really generally, if I believe you really are going to be injured by this, then we won't do it, right? But almost always addressing a broken relationship with a parent in some way, maybe, okay, we're not going to do it in an intensive, but doing it in some way, even if you're not thrilled about it, is in your best interest, right? Versus not doing it all. I mean, wouldn't you agree with that?
I would, but it's not the kid you need to convince.
Oh,
It's
I
the
know. Yeah.
it's the favorite parent. You have to create that rationale and get sufficient buy-in,
Right.
and they'll give the green light to the child and support just what you're saying. This is important to you, you know, and I'm telling you it's important to you, because they're gonna play off of,
Mhm.
that parent's. So interestingly, just from a structural standpoint, when I train, I say, the orders are often, first of all, dyadic, that repair needs to happen between parent A and child, so they need to engage in parent-child, relationship therapy. Well, where's the favorite parent in this? Because, the favorite parent then says, "Not my problem," and they're probably not gonna support. If they're gonna support it, then you have a mild case, and guess what? Prognosis is gonna be pretty good. But if it's more moderate or severe, that parent is gonna not only not participate, but and interestingly, the sequencing of the work in a family systems model, where everyone is expected by the order of the court to be involved. Again, we're not going to debate about who's to blame, but we're going to absolutely mandate that everyone's got work to do to move things forward. And that distinction is important because if you're back in the blame game, you go nowhere because in fact, everybody's got evidence, legitimate evidence that the other has contributed. So, but if you can mandate or God, if you can get buy-in that everybody's got work to do, now we have a start. And then the work starts with the favored parent and the child. The other parent has to wait in the wings for their opportunity to have parent-child work until the therapist has a sense that the work has been done, that the parent has said to that child in a meaningful way, this is important work and I support it. And then if you can get that, maybe you got a chance.